everybody. So it's
Happy Friday, April 17th.
yeah, crazy. It's blowing by so fast. I mean, it's crazy. We're getting almost in the summertime, and pool's open today. Woohoo!
I want to see you in a bathing suit, Jerry. That's what I
No,
want to
you
see.
don't. No,
Yeah.
you don't.
There we do.
No.
Yeah. Speaking of bathing suits, special guest star
Yeah.
Jay Sperry. Isn't that transition? That was the worst transition ever, but
Perfect.
it had to kind of angle. But Jay Sperry with Veterans Service Brands. Jay, welcome to the show, Chasing Dirt
Yeah.
show.
Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jerry.
We met one of Jay's cohorts, Rachel, down at the NFMTO. I slaughtered that name in Charlotte about a month ago. And Jerry and I were kind of walking around the show, and I separated one way, he went another way, and I saw you guys, and I love the mission of what Veteran Service Brands talks about. And as everyone knows on the show, Jerry and I geek out on the business of cleaning. And Jay, I see you guys filling a niche within the business of cleaning. And before we get into what Veteran Service Brands does, tell us about you, your history, and how you kind of directly, indirectly got sucked into the commercial cleaning business.
Yeah. So I right out of high school, I think 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I did 20 years and 10 days. Retired from the Marine Corps after a pretty good career. I was an infantry guy most of the time, so leading small teams, squads, all the way up to the platoon and the battalion level. And then, during my transition, they have this thing called Skill Bridge, where you can, spend the last 6 months or 3 months of your military career, kind of on the government's dime, but in a trade or a business, as an intern. And so just so happened to stumble across an opportunity. Someone shared I was working with a guy from Raytheon. He shared a link for a job posting. It was just so happened to be G-Force parking lot striping. Originally, I thought it was G-Force, the software company. I was like, oh man, there's no way they're looking for a COO, especially coming out of the military. But looked it up. It was parking lot striping. I was actually in San Antonio at the time. And I called the local franchisee from there, and I went and visited him on site. And then Jack, the CEO and founder of the company at the time, called me shortly after and was like, I understand you went and saw one of my locations. Yeah, I sure did. I think that helped set the tone for my interview with Jack, and then ultimately my position here. I worked for about 4 months as an intern while in the SkillBridge program. And shortly after that, Jack gave me a formal offer. And then as we grew, he understood that there was the possibility for me to transition in from G-Force into Veteran Service Brands, so overseeing all of currently our 5 brands that we have right now. So,
Would that qualify, that first initial meeting that you did? Would that be like in the military term, force recon? So you kind of went in, check
exactly
out
what it was. Yeah, I went and did my reconnaissance, and I had a better understanding of the company and their strengths and weaknesses. You're right.
I love it. I did that once, and it worked well, because they catch you off, you catch them off guard, and you find the real scoop before you actually talk to the real people that make the decision on hiring you. So I love that.
Made me really confident in my meeting with Jack. I knew what I was talking about at that point. So.
Absolutely. Tell us about Veteran Service Brands. I'm gonna pull up the website as well as we're talking, but tell us a little bit about what you guys do, and I'll chime into it. And Jerry, if you got any questions, but Veteran Service Brands, give a little overview.
Yeah, so G-Force parking lot striping was the very first franchise system under Veteran Service Brands, and it was the pavement markings. So we do anything from warehouse markings to parking garage, parking structures, signage, so ADA compliance, you name it. If it has to do with the parking lot, seal coating, crack filling, we do all of those services under G-Force parking lot striping. Shortly after, we realized very quickly that there was a market for epoxy floors. So Jack found some folks that were pretty knowledgeable in the epoxy business. Opened up Mach 1 epoxy floors, and we currently have 21 locations under Mach 1. We have 52 locations under G-Force parking lot striping across the United States. And then almost simultaneously, the very first G-Force franchisee, his brother-in-law had owned a painting company who was a veteran as well. And so we opened up PaintCore commercial and residential painting. They do anything from cabinet refinishes all the way up to commercial spaces, full repaints. And then we got a lot of phone calls, some way, somehow, just about fields. Are you do you do lacrosse fields? Do you do football fields? Most of our G-Force folks were getting on average about 12 calls a month to do any kind of sport court or field marking. So we realized that kind of needed to be a separate division, because most of our parking lot striping guys didn't want to go out and resurface a basketball court or paint a football field. So we have robots that we use for the football fields, lacrosse fields, and all of those great things. And then we do full court resurfaces, and we're certified with Pickle Roll to do pickleball or Pickle Roll court installations.
Hey,
So,
really quick, you guys, that's crazy. But what is that courts? What are those courts typically made out of? Pickleball
it just
court.
depends. You know, there's a 7-layer system that you can use on like concrete, and then some of them are kind of like almost like a fiberglass base, but then with a little bit of rubber integrated into it, and then you can actually tape it down and then remove it in 4x4 squares, or you can glue it down permanently and it can stay as well. So if you wanted to, it's almost like seal coating. You can mix it with some different chemicals and put sand in it, aggregate, and make it what it is to when you walk on a basketball court that's outside, or a pickleball court, they're kind of grainy, almost have some traction to them so you don't slip and fall. So
Nice. And y'all do basketball courts as well? That's
Yep.
wood courts?
Yeah, so basketball courts, tennis courts, you name it, our guys can do it.
That's awesome. That's one of the avenues. Then I'll let you speak at the last one. That was one of the avenues I saw, is that the hard floor coating. What triggered me is we have one of our clients on the exchange, I told you, that's looking for some specialized anti-slip flooring at some point later this year. And when they have that project come up, that's why you guys kind of caught my eye, is because I guess they're stepping in some train stations or something like that to kind of apply this coatings, and it could be multiple locations across the country. So cool. I wasn't aware you did basketball courts, so that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
It's so funny, but it's such a small world, Jay, because I've been looking to get my garage epoxy floored. And when Jack brought up your name, I'd been looking in the area where I'm in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach.
Yep.
And
Non-military town, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
And I saw y'all's company. I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then Jack and I started talking about it. So we need to get your people here locally to get with me, because I want to get my garage done.
Absolutely, yeah. We got
turn into a sales thing, but hey,
Yeah, our Mach 1 Norfolk is just down the road from you, not too far away. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So have them get in touch with me. Let's do it.
I will.
I'm ready to go.
I think
So that last piece, I guess, is prop wash, right? So that's the last piece too. That's the piece that caught my eye as well, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So again, another, G-Force, our guys had to go out and pressure wash parking lots and pressure wash other concrete, pads in front of most drive-throughs that you see are concrete, right? So they need to be pressure washed and then repainted, typically every 2 years, maybe 3, depending on the amount of traffic. And so we just found that folks were even asking while we were there, was like, hey, can you pressure wash the building too? Or can you pressure wash this part? So it got to the point where most of our crews for G-Force have pressure washing equipment. And, we're talking 8 gallons per minute, big stuff. And so we got to the point where we're like, all right, well, why don't we just launch a pressure washing company, right? So Prop Wash came to fruition. Actually, we're getting ready to launch it, the rest of it here soon. We've had it in the works for years now. Most of our folks have been doing it under their G-Force business, but we're going to separate it from G-Force like we did Field Ops and keep it as its own entity. But yeah, looking to get into drone training here pretty soon. Use drones for higher buildings. Everything that is pressure washing. So
that's awesome. So the different brands. So you guys are a franchise organization. So you'll have different players in different markets. Again, we're putting you guys in the system under the Prop Wash and under the commercial. Epoxy floors.
Yes,
but that athletic field marking at some point, because we do have a lot of contract cleaners, that may be something we need to talk about. But we have a lot of contract cleaners that, they do good. As it's good money on taking those wood courts and flipping them over every year. Either screening them and resurfacing, or doing a whole strip down and building them back. So
yeah, absolutely.
I
love
have
it.
another customer here for you in Norfolk for that. So
all right, we'll be ready.
So tell us what you're seeing out there with what you guys are doing. And again, every one of your franchisees is vet owned or associated with a vet owned, whether it be a wife or a husband, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
As well?
Yeah. The veteran has to own 51% of the franchise as of right now. Looking in the future, what that might change into, we might adapt a little bit more, because obviously, if you're a business owner and you grow your business, eventually you're going to want to sell it, right? And someone coming right out of the military might not be in a position financially to buy a business that's already booming, making a good amount of money. So we're looking at other options for our current franchisees that are veterans that have had their business for a while, and what they might be able to do to sell their business in the future. So we might open that up to more people, first responders, other family members.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are you seeing out there in the market overall, as far as what is if you looked at those 5 brands, I'm sure you're growing in each, but what are you seeing overall? What's kind of the game plan as far as your existing franchisees, what you're seeing, and then in those markets you're not in, what are you looking for, and how can we help you kind of get the word out on that as well?
Yeah, I think the word's getting out there slowly, right? It's taken G-Force about 7 years. It's taken Mach 1 about 3 at this point, but people know who we are. They've seen our work, whether it be on social media or word of mouth through other general contractors. But we're starting to get some of the big name folks calling us and asking us, hey, how do we work with all 21 of your locations versus just Nashville or just Norfolk, Virginia? It was like, well, Veteran Service Brands, obviously, as being the umbrella, can manage whatever accounts you need us to manage. And I think in the industry, what we found is folks are having a lot more trouble getting, or setting up accounts with individual locations. We got 92 locations. You don't want to set up 92 different accounts with all of those locations and then send them invoices or, do invoicing and do job costing and everything. It's easier if you just come to one point of contact. We send it down to them because we already have that direct line of communication. We get the estimate from them. We turn it or send it right back to the customer, and we get the job rolling a lot faster. It's more efficient that way. So what I've seen over the last few years is more and more people want to have one point of contact. And it's like sometimes Jack and I make a joke, it's one throat to choke, right? One person to go after if things go wrong. But so it's good and bad, right, at the same time. But I've realized that most people want one point of contact, one throughput for the business, and it's more efficient for us, and I think it's more efficient for our franchisees as well.
No, I love that. I think that's the angle we saw. Within the exchange, you guys are now there, and we're in the process of introducing, I think it's 25 or so locations we have in the exchange. But
yes, sir.
Those contract cleaners that are in the exchange, whether they're big, small, medium, whatever it may be, is not all of them do epoxy floors. Not all of them do pressure washing. They sub that out. So, and I think what we're seeing too out there as some of these larger contracts is they do want to see more women-owned company, more vet-owned companies. And I think that's a play that you guys fit in. So as we kind of get the profile filled out, I think definitely check off that veteran-owned and operated, because I think that will help overall. And if it's a woman-owned, it's even well. If it's a minority as well. So these primes that are out there within the exchange, I think that's, Jay, what I was looking for is getting you guys in front of them, because I think there's some serious opportunity as we kind of expand.
Yeah, and I think to your point, one of the biggest things that we've had and that I've experienced with customers, I'm just glad you picked up the phone, right? At the end of the day, it's hard to find people sometimes. And I think that the system that you're developing makes a quick connection. We're like, hey, this is someone that's already in the system. Here's their contact information. Here's what their business scope is capable of. And it cuts out all the extra steps that someone has to do. Like, I got to research, I got to go to the local level. How many, then you're starting to do reviews on business. Like, how many, 1-star reviews do they have? How long have they been in business? Sure. It's a long vetting process for operations managers and folks that are in the industries. And, this system kind of weeds out, like, oh, hey, there's already somebody that's in the system. Here's more about their business. This is how long they've been doing it. That makes it so much simpler and easier for us to connect with folks.
Yeah. I think the drone too, I think I'm seeing that more and more. I'm seeing people just not even in the cleaning business, just doing drone, and they're just subcontracting their services out. So I think that's a very smart move on your side. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but that investment in drones is huge, and you've got to kind of get that volume going before you can justify it. So you may want to also check in one of our partners, Sunbelt Rentals. They're actually renting drones at this point. So if you have the pilots, you just pull in Sunbelt Rentals drones as you need them. You got the pilots, you got the salesmen, go to town on it,
That's funny you bring that up. I met with him yesterday.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had a whole team of their site managers on yesterday. I was with 5 or 6 of them. And then we talked about their drone system specifically. Actually emailed their lead drone tech this morning and asked him, he's like, hey, when's the next training event? I know it's in South Carolina. Let's do this. So hopefully by the time we're done with this, I got an email back from him and we can set up training. So.
Nice. Yeah, they're good people over there, and they've been supporting us for a number of years now. Rory over there, so shout out to Rory and his team. But I say that drone though, but I think whatever marketing plan you're doing, I would feel free to let me know where I can help you. But I would be not only marketing to end users out there, but I would be marketing every contract cleaner, because every contract cleaner out there has a relationship with someone that may need that service. And surprisingly enough, where I'm hearing the most, where I'm seeing the most kind of engagement of it is getting Class A office towers doing the exterior soft washing. And that's a little above my pay grade of soft washing versus pressure washing. But But I've heard this one guy I met with, he was down in the Southeast like you are, church steeples of all things. Church steeples are, he was telling me he made a killing off of one thing. And I don't want to say you make a killing off a church, but he goes, the church, they want it done, but they couldn't afford to do it because they can only afford it every 10 to 15 years because it was probably about $25,000 worth of scaffolding just to get up there. And what they were doing was this kind of dual purpose of not only pressure washing or soft washing that, they were also doing inspections. And I think a lot of these drones now have cameras that you can do inspections to kind of say, hey, we need to get up there and fix X, Y, Z, by the way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We're pretty excited about it. I'm not gonna lie.
It's geek out on that.
Big deal. That's a big deal. Like one of the universities here locally, they have 2 dome facilities that have their gymnasium is a dome, and then their main visitor center. And for years they were like, Jerry, can you pressure wash this? I'm like, it'd be great if it wasn't styrofoam. I can't get on it, can't stand on it, can't put a ladder on it. And so literally it was virtually impossible to do. And then the drone stuff came along, and the beautiful, I don't know, $3,500-$4,500,
Yep.
for the drone and the pilot, and charge the customer a little bit more, and it's a home run. So that's an industry, that's a part of the industry I think people are afraid to get into because of the cost, but I don't think they realize the volume that's out there and the normalcy that it will be in a year from now. It'll just be a normal thing to see that. So
Yeah. I
The
think
cool
the good
factor's
thing is,
at level 10, right?
yeah,
The
oh
cool
yeah.
factor's level 10, just to see people driving by. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No,
No,
yeah, that's great.
I think the good thing is for veterans, they're all about risk, right?
Yeah.
And most of their part of their career, they want to take a little bit of risk and see how far they can push the limits. And you get a bunch of Marines with an electronic drone flying it around. It's going to be exciting stuff. Air Force pilots might know what they're doing a little bit better than Marines.
Yeah,
but
I was
we'll
gonna
see how
say
it goes.
it's the pilots that you want on it. So
Yeah, that's right. I think for us, Jack, to your point, it's a very expensive investment for our company, but at the same time, I think we're going to do exactly that. Like, let's rent for a little while. Let's prove that the systems we have in place, and then the continuous service that we can provide to the customers is there. And then once we validate and verify that, then each individual location can start to purchase their own drones and have their own program internally. But for now, it's all about renting from Sunbelt and just proving that there's enough work out there for our location. And I guarantee there is.
Yeah, Sunbelt's a great group, and I think that's what I love about those guys is that, how many times, and maybe I geek out on this stuff all the time, but you go to Facebook and you look at these groups and you see people trying to sell $100,000 worth of carpet cleaning because they thought the idea was great to get into it, and they spent $100,000, and they're now trying to sell it for $25,000. This kit they bought for $100,000, and you just until you get enough repeat business on a weekly basis, rent from Sunbelt, because I think that's the best play. And once you get that volume, then buy. But that's awesome, man. Let me ask you this: what do you see on the horizon for you guys overall? So drone cleaning, you talked about. What do you see? You're probably got a group that's actively looking to find other vets and other markets you don't service to kind of start building that out. If someone's interested in that, what's the play to say, hey, I'm a vet, I'm 51% owned. Maybe I don't have a company, maybe I'm working for somebody, but I want to get into this. What's that look like? That journey?
Yeah, for them, we have a franchise development website. So if you look up veteranservicebrands.com and you put an inquiry in just saying, hey, I'm a veteran, I'm interested in owning a franchise system, I'd love to know more about your business models, that'll put someone in contact with our franchise development team. It's just Lucy Robinson. She's phenomenal. And then Craig LeCare. He's also been selling franchises for our space for a while. And I think just at the very bottom, you own a franchise, you can click on either one of those, or you can fill out the form at the bottom, and it'll just let you know, hey, we'll get in contact with you pretty soon. So,
are you seeing a lot of your franchisees starting to say, you know what, I get into it through epoxy, but crap, I'll go ahead and go after the G-Force as well, go after the field ops as well? Or are they kind of just starting to kind of pull it all together?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have some teams that we're actually building wraps for right now that are veteran service brands wraps because they have 3 or 4 of our brands at this point. So you got Baltimore actually right now has a G-Force, a Mach 1, a Paint Core, and they're getting ready to kick off their prop wash as well. But they're crushing it out there. They're one of our largest locations, and they've done phenomenal up to this point. So
that is awesome. Jerry, what questions you got?
You would end up. You can go to the brand's website. You can also go into just that main one and say, hey, this is what I'd like to research or know a little bit more about. I always challenge folks too, if you're interested in owning a franchise, call. You can see the numbers down here. Hey, here's a number for Alabama. Here's a number for Paint Corps Phoenix. You call those numbers. You talk to the franchisees and get their spiel on how what they think about the franchise system. That's one thing that I think a lot of folks don't do. They don't do enough research before getting themselves kind of in contact with the franchise system. And then typically brokers are going to be hounding you like, hey, you ready? Let's do this. But I think with our system and the way we do things, we're non-pressure. We just kind of say, hey, if you want to do this, it's kind of on you. Give us a call back whenever you're ready.
Awesome.
Well, and I think for a larger organization, I think this would be, I think you guys would, like you said, if they want to, they got multiple locations across multiple states. It's a good fit as well, especially, when you think about, even on the field striping, you think about conferences and some of the smaller conferences, larger conferences, and I know a lot of athletic departments do some of that themselves. But there's also a lot of organizations, believe it or not, that hire guys like you to come in and take care of it on a regular basis. So, and do their field services, throughout the whole year for everything. So, it's pretty fascinating. I love it. So I'm a huge, obviously, I am born and raised in a military town, so I'm a big deal about the veterans. So I love this. So it's great.
No, it's a great story.
Most of our folks that do the field striping, they talk to schools, universities, and they got a program where they go out and they actually mow and stripe, every other week and maintain those fields for them. So
good stuff.
Awesome. We've got a guy with a contract with Tesla that does all the recharging stations. So I'm going to send this episode over to him because he's part of that is wiping down and cleaning up the charging stations, the pickup of the trash. But I got to imagine over time the striping is going to be something they need as well. So I think what you guys are doing is great. I think it's going to expand. I think your biggest challenge at some point is going to be, now we do 20 things. Do we have 20 brands, or how do we consolidate that all into one? So I think that's the heavy lift you'll be having down the road. But I love the story. I think there's a fit for you within the exchange. So thank you for you and your team members signing up for that. My hope is that we will get some leads and opportunities sent your way, and we'll help you with your cause and your movement. So.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. Very excited.
It's awesome.
Jerry, any last thoughts before we go? Then we'll let Jay kind of wrap it up.
America all the way, baby. America all the way. So that's my thought. And I'm proud to say it, not afraid to say it. So
yes, sir.
America. There you go. Jay, we'll let you wrap it up. Any final thoughts you got? Your information is going to be published on the show notes, so you'll be able to reach out to you. I think Rachel we put in there as well. So we'll make sure that you guys are listed. And any other final thoughts before we wrap this episode 5,555 of the Chasing Dirt Show?
That's right. Now I just say, like I mentioned before, if you're interested in owning one of our franchises or being part of our network, please reach out and reach out to some of our locations, or if you know a veteran that you think would be a good fit inside of our system, let them know we're ready to rock and roll. But outside of that,
you guys aren't bought. You can be a Marine preferably, but it's okay for Army, Navy, and all that good stuff, right?
It's okay to be any other branch of service. Yeah, that's fine. The preferred Marines. Yeah, we'll just keep that up there.
Hoorah!
I give the founder a hard time. He was in the Air Force, so we always have good jokes. I think that's one of the best parts about being part of this community is it's all veterans, and every single phone call, it's jokes upon jokes upon jokes. You get text messages from the guys. I talk to probably every single one of our franchisees at least once a month, and it's just it never ends, right? The jokes are always there, so it's fun.
I think I heard a stat, not that on a weird note, but I heard a stat the other day. Last night I listened to a podcast. The Navy has more planes than the Air Force, and I heard the Marines maybe have more boats than the Navy. Is that a fact, or have you heard that fact at all?
I have not heard that fact, but I know we ride on all the Navy's boats, but we do have small little like Zodiacs and things like that. But I mean, maybe total we have more boats than they do.
Yeah, but I was surprised definitely by I thought that was a little odd, but the planes kind of caught me off guard with the Navy.
Hey, just admit it. When the Marines are on the Navy boat, it becomes a Marine boat. You know that.
Yeah, it is a Marine vessel. That's right.
That's why they probably said that. So
you just tell them thanks for the ride.
Yeah.
It's the world's largest Uber.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Jay, with Veteran Service Brands, appreciate the time today. Really great meeting you. Thank you for your support. We look forward to supporting you as well and your team. And anytime you got something new you want to roll out, you're welcome on the Chasing Dirt Show. And again, we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Have a good weekend. Cool.